Hi guys, this is Rosa Kelly. Today I'm here to give you a look into my 2021 reading journal. Yeah, let's take a look. Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm here to give you a full look into my completed reading journal for 2021. I love this journal so much. It is the simplest thing, but yeah, a lot of good thoughts went into this journal after reading some beautiful books that have definitely changed my life in some way or another. And so on the previous years I always read, but I never actually kept a journal for it, and it has definitely motivated me to read some more. I always look forward till the end of the month to write down about the books that I read. I do have to say, by October I kind of fell behind a little bit, and mid-November, December, I had a little bit of trouble remembering about each book that I read. But yeah, it was super fun to fill. And this is just a bullet notebook that I basically personalized myself to accommodate my needs. And yeah, I wasn't expecting to read as many books as I read, so I'm really proud of myself. And a lot of this is because I was eager to put some more books into my journal. So I'm gonna move to the other table, that way you can have a better look, and let's go. So as I mentioned, this is the first time that I do a reading journal, and I am absolutely in love of how this journal ended up looking. So this is one of these plain bullet journals from Michaels. I went ahead and embossed the cover here. I just stamped this beautiful bird on a flower with some Versamark stamp, and I used my heating tool to add the gold embossing powder, and I just really love how that look. Now my journal, it's a little bit beat up because I did take this everywhere with me, and I just loved using it. And I personally love going back to the previous months to see what I read, and I don't know, it just makes me really happy. So as we open this up, on the front I just did a little collage. I wanted this journal to be very simple but also very aesthetic looking, and I definitely didn't overdo the pages because it was something that I didn't want this to take me a lot of time, and since I am now spending more time reading. And then here I started doing a color coding keynote here for the books that I read on a traditional manner, like reading the actual book. The second one was if the book was only audiobook. Then I have one for Spanish books, and then if I have like a combination of audio and physical reading, which is most of my books are physical reads and audiobook combined. I think that is the best way to really get engaged to the book and connected to the book, to read the pages at the same time as listening to the voices on the audiobook. And so over here on this spread you will see my 2021 TBR list. So I wanted to do 21 books to read on 2021. And if you look at this, the way I did it is I just went ahead and Googled the images for each one of the books that I wanted. Let me show you the ones that I have for 2022. So basically I create a list here on a Word document of the books that I want to read, and then I do screenshots of that and I reduce the size, so I come up with a smaller version of the book to add as the front here. And then in the bigger books I start putting throughout the pages. So let me know if you want me to do a video setting up my journal for 2022, since I haven't done that yet. So I glue the little pieces. I did print out this on cardstock, lightweight cardstock, and then I went ahead and created some square bubbles, I guess. And then as I read each one of these books, I filled in the inside of the bubbles. So you can see that I read most everything except for this one and this one. So I did not get to finish these two books on 2021. However, I just finished reading this one recently and I loved it. So one book that I still have carry over from my 2021 list, and this was really useful because each month I typically pick some new releases or something that really has got my attention, that I've seen somebody talk about a book, and then also I go to this list and just select on one of the books that I have pre-selected for 2021, and that worked out really good for me. On the next page here, I sketched this by hand. This is basically a bookcase, and I really had fun creating all these flower elements, and I definitely got this inspiration from Pinterest. And over here, some collage. These images here are also from Pinterest. If you just search like aesthetic reading pictures, you will get some of these, and then I just did screenshots and just added a couple over here. And so yeah, I really like how that ended up looking. I wasn't planning on reading these many books, so I definitely needed a second bookcase for the amount of books that I read this year. And you can see that at the beginning I started color coding based on my color coding key, but yeah, since I couldn't fit all the books, it wouldn't really make sense to see it because there were more books that were not included. And so yeah, so maybe for next year I will make this into a double spread. So as we move into the months, you're gonna see how I started the year not reading so much, and then I got really motivated and my reading definitely increased. And so I mainly want to show you these spreads here on how I just hand sketch the months, and I thought it was super fun to do. I don't know how to draw very well, but I think these sketches were easy enough and super relaxing to just sit down and try to come up with something. I got a lot of inspiration from Pinterest as well. And then I'm not going to talk about all the books that I read because that will make this video really long, but I do want you to see like the different covers for the month and how, for example, on the next month I went ahead and started 2 books. This is the month that I was moving, so I actually started an audiobook as I was doing, you know, like the boxes, and that is the first time that I listened to an audiobook at home compared to only when I'm driving, and that turned out really good. So then on March I went ahead and read these 2 books. I remember clearly when I read Lock Every Door because that's the day I got my vaccine shot number 1, and I took a day off of work and I just lay in bed and read this book from start to finish. And this book got me hooked, and it opened it opened my mind, and I just really wanted to read as much as possible because it was so good. It also opened my reading to a whole new genre, which is thrillers. I never before read thrillers. I always read historical fictions or non-fiction, and sometimes I read like some magical realism, but not so much. I wasn't into thrillers that much until I found this book. So you will see a lot of thrillers coming up next. I also read My Dark Vanessa, which was one of my favorite books of the year, although it's really sad. But anyway, so moving on, we have April. I was a lot more into reading. Some of Achilles is another one that I did audiobook combined with typical reading, and yeah, that turned out really good. And so on May, you're gonna see an increase on my reading because that is the month that I started actually listening to audiobooks more. I went ahead and downloaded the Libby app from your library, so I highly suggest you do that because those books are free. Sometimes there is a little wait. You do have to wait maybe 2 weeks, maybe 4 weeks, maybe 10 weeks, depending how popular the book is, but eventually you will get the book. And yeah, it is a lot easier to read again listening to the audiobook. So here's when I did my first readathon, and basically what that is I try to read as many books as possible within a week, and I was really proud of myself to read 4 books. Actually, I didn't finish reading this book during this week here, but still I think 3 books are pretty good for a week. And then these are again more books that I read in May. And then we start here with June's The Kite Runner, something that talks about, you know, a little bit of history. And so I feel like reading is such a window of opportunity to discover other places and things that are happening or that had happened in real life. And so, but I discovered a little bit of fantasy, and I absolutely love that series here, the Shadowhunter series. And so, yeah, I was hooked on that. So I finished reading the whole series this year. And so then we move on to July. And again, I was very into the readathons type of setup. Just I like picking 5 books and challenging myself to read those within the week, or, you know, maybe sometimes just the weekend. And then this right here is my favorite spread of the whole year. Number one, because August is my birthday, so I really wanted to do something really, really pretty. And then I absolutely love this book. I read this book on my trip. I went to Peru and I took this book with me, and I had this book everywhere. I was reading by the pool, I was reading by the beach, I was reading in the plane, and yeah, I have a special connection to that book. I really loved it. And then some more fantasy, as you can see. I started reading more middle grade as well, and a lot more thrillers. And then we move on to September. And so on September, I wanted to do a week of romance. I am not a person who likes to read romance, but I wanted to give it a try. You know, I typically don't go for the, you know, like the covers that are very cutesy and fancy. I don't know why. I don't know why. It's definitely not something that I gravitate towards. But I did enjoy this book so much. I absolutely love them. So I understand the hype, why they're so good. And I definitely now will be reading more romances as well. This book here, it ends with us, it completely destroyed me. So if you haven't read that book, I highly suggest you do. It is a beautiful, beautiful book, and I think it's gonna be a movie now, so I'm excited for that. And so again, a little bit more fantasy, more dark fantasy that I really loved. Just a mix here of different things. You can see in September I wanted to kind of transition a little bit to the witchy books for Halloween. So Under the Whispering Door, another one of my favorites for this year. I went ahead and did a video for all my favorite books, so I'm gonna link it down below so you can see and hear me talk a little bit more about the books that I really love this year, although there's quite a few that I love that didn't make the list as well. So this is October. I wanted the plants to kind of look like spider webs. I don't know if I accomplished that, but it was really fun to make. As you can see, I'm only using some scrap pieces of cardstock paper here, designer cardstock, and for each month I just basically pick one sheet of 12 by 12 and just started like ripping it in pieces, and each month has a different page. And so yeah, so super easy. Again, I try to minimize the decorating on the book, maybe a couple stickers here and there. What delayed me was printing out the book. So something that I did after I read the books was print out each book that I read. So something that I'm doing differently now is printing the books ahead that are on my list to read. That way I can cut them and just have them here on the back pocket, so it's a lot easier and faster. Once I read a book, I can just go ahead and glue it whenever I read it. I think that's gonna make my life easier. And so I did another week of spooky reads on October, which was really fun, and I was actually reading a lot of thrillers by this point. And then on November, I don't like how this page turned out. This is probably one that I would change if I could, but I'm just ready to move on into the next journal. So, and some more scary books here. This book was amazing, The Last House on Middlesex Street. Highly recommend that book as well. And so again, more thrillers. So then on December, I moved back to more historical fiction type of books. Those are the books that keep me thinking for a long time after I'm reading the books. I also read some non-fiction books here as well. And The Four Winds, this book was my favorite top one book of the year, so I definitely wanted to talk a lot about this book. And so the last two books that I read are some more Christmassy books. This is The Best Christmas Ever. So this is a romance book, and it was just really beautiful. It has a lot of Christmas vibes, beautiful message as well. And then A Thriller in the Snow, of course, which was really good. And so here you can see my reading stacks for the year. So I read a total of 85 books. This is not counting all the books that I didn't finish. There are some books that I read, I probably made it to halfway through, I didn't finish them, and so I didn't include those here. So there's probably a good 10 other books that I read halfway that I actually still have, so I will eventually finish those. So I have 5 classics, 8 historical fictions, and then we have 6 romance, 28 thrillers, which is crazy, but again, I can't stop now. That's like I have to. Then we have 10 of the literary fiction, 6 horror books. So then I have 15 fantasy books, 4 middle grades, and 3 non-fiction books. So I am really happy with how many books I read. I definitely only had the goal to read the 21 books, and so it's never about the number, obviously. I hope that you guys enjoy this video. Thank you so much for watching. If you're new to my channel, please subscribe. I'm sorry about my voice. I've been losing my voice this whole week, but thank you for hanging out, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye bye.